What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Newstrength Way podcast. This is like take 3 of today's episode, considering I've managed to forget to turn mics on, cameras on, everything in the last couple of times. But we're welcoming back Coach Nic from Newstrength to the show. He's been on the podcast before, about a year ago when he first joined our team, and we wanted to get him back in today to talk a little bit about the insights of going through that first 12 months in the industry and finding out like what's it really like to be a PT or be in the fitness industry. And so yeah, it should be a really cool inside view into his life and how it's changed as a result of that. And then if you're interested in going into the fitness industry, it's probably a great way to actually see what things actually transpond in that time period, rather than just like being like, oh, personal training, it's sweet, you just get up, you train people, and it's awesome. Which it is awesome, don't get me wrong, but there's definitely some different views to it from what you think's involved versus what's actually involved in the industry. So Nic, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me again, Jacob. Third time
today?
On the podcast. So for you guys who haven't heard my first podcast or don't know me, my name's Nic, I'm a Velo boy. I originally got into PT as a change of career to go into something more personal. I came from surveying, which was a lot more mechanical, and the reason why I swapped to PT specifically was from my own training and just how much it benefited me, and I felt like I could teach back through my mistakes and my learning. And there's a whole story behind that, but give the first one a listen to if you want to know more. But it is good to be back, Jacob. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, man. It's great to have you on. So, Nic, let's start off with like an update where things are at the moment. You've been coaching with us since July last year. Obviously, we're getting close into about 12 months. It'll be like 12 months by the time we're actually back in the gym with this whole COVID situation going on. But tell us a little bit about like how's it been? Like, just give us an overview of like what you've enjoyed in the first 12 months of coaching and go through with that.
Awesome. To be honest, I've really enjoyed this job. I've actually been through a few jobs beforehand, and I've enjoyed them, but this one has a lot more meaning to me, a lot more purpose. So staying throughout the year has been quite a breeze, to be honest. There's so many highlights with it as well. Just seeing the work you put in versus the work that's shown to you through clients and their progress. That's awesome. It's a very rewarding job in that way, and I think that's why I'm going to stick with it and go into similar health careers later on down the track. It's just been great being in the industry.
So tell me, jumping from that, like what's some things that you had ideas around before you came into the industry, or like from just seeing what coaches were doing, or like through Instagram, whatever that might be, versus like once you've been into the swing of things, how are things different from like what that perception of the fitness industry lifestyle is like? Yeah,
of course. Good question. Going into the fitness industry, and I think you brought up a really good point, was Instagram and social media. A lot of these days it's a little bit more well known in terms of PTs and whatnot. I think back in the day it was just you go to the gym and you only really get coaching unless you're doing an elite sport or whatnot. But these days there is a lot of bad information out there, I guess, or misleading information. And when I came into this industry, I expected there to be a lot of that with the not so much with the environment I'm in, but just how much I'd be exposed to in terms of other businesses and that. But to be honest, Newcastle's pretty good in my opinion.
There's a lot of good practitioners around in Newcastle. I think it's a real, I'm sure like a lot of other places are very, very similar, but it's kind of like a really hub of like excellence when it comes into like the health and fitness industry. Like there's 100%. Some exceptional physiotherapists, there's some exceptional personal trainers and other people in the fitness industry. Likewise within exercise phys, there's a lot of really great people in the local area and in their own niche markets as well. Like you've got like Nez that runs Lissom, that's like a all girls gym that's like doing amazing things for her special community. That's like, but she's not trying to do that with dudes. Like she's just doing her thing, which is really, really cool. And that's what I think's been really, really cool about like Newcastle. You also got like Rod Cooper, and he was on the show last week, and the guys at TMC, and it was like they don't try to like go out of their lane. It's just like, this is what we're good at, and we just stick with that really well. And I think that's why there's probably so much of a positive relationship amongst the local industry as well. As like it seems like it's a lot more cutthroat in different areas, but locally within Newcastle, like I know quite a lot of the guys that run a lot of the gyms, and we all talk. We're all very, very positive around each other. So it seems to be that, I don't know whether it's a Newcastle thing or we're more welcoming people, but it's definitely a good place if you want to be involved in the fitness space.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point with you saying that you know a lot of people. That's kind of one of the expectations I went in with PT being so competitive in its own way, is ever since I've joined Newstrength, just how many other gyms that we work with in a way, or just like, especially yourself, like you interact with in the strongman scene, nutrition scene, and that it's not like everyone's holding a grudge against each other, trying to steal clients and whatnot. I feel like it's super genuine in that way. And that was a big thing for me, which made me, like really appreciate it. And again, could just be Newcastle, but I'm thankful for where we are.
Yeah, I think it's there is this thing to do with it, but it's funny because there's this idea of competition around it. But like if you're somebody who's so passionate about health and fitness, and like helping bring that to other people's lives, it's like there's a small group of people in your local area that are just as passionate about it as well, and like have these same interests, and they're the other trainers. Yeah. So it's like when you think about it, like these are the guys that are actually like, when you might like, people might think that there's competition. It's like, oh, this place is opening up down the road, or like whatever. It's like most of those guys are like, I feel like I have such a great connection with when I actually go and meet up with them. Guys like Brendan Andrews at Forever Forward, Mick Shanos running Strength Community down there, and then Nick Mayer with the Youth Academy. It's like every time I chat with those guys, it's like catching up with my best buddies. And likewise with like some of the other gyms in town, that like Rod and the guys at CrossFit Coalface, like all of these people, we all talk amongst each other all the time. And it's funny that people think that it's like, oh, that person's got like this going, and then next thing, Newstrength's running weightlifting classes too, and like, oh, is it competitive? It's like, most of us are all like, just like, we're all friends and all like happy to just do our own thing. So
that's it, man.
It's quite an interesting, that's a huge perspective shift. That's been funny that once you're in and around it, and you know all the people in the industry, or like a lot of them, like it's quite funny that people think that there's a competition amongst them, and most of the time it's like we're all buddies.
100%. That was huge for me, absolutely big.
What about on the coaching side of things? Was there things that came to mind that when maybe like you thought that it was going to be a certain way of like how to coach people, or like whether certain things were going to be useful based off like in your studies going through Cert 3 and Cert 4, and then as you've got into the job, you're actually working with people, you've realised that maybe isn't the best way to go about things, and there's actually like a few different levels to this?
100%. When I first started, I was super nervous. People could tell in the group class and whatnot. But my perception of going in was just make sure you can teach as much as possible within a short amount of time. And in a way that was ineffective, I found, because I got so sidetracked in teaching technique and whatnot that I wasn't paying attention to people's energy levels and whatnot in the gym. But as I've experienced over the year, like I'll come in, and obviously technique is super important because that's what we're there to do. But the main thing that you have with ongoing clients is just checking in with them, how they're going, how they're feeling outside of the gym. And I feel like that will affect that's the biggest deterrent, or what will affect their progress. So originally I went with the idea, just teach technique, go, like let's just get this session out. But when it comes to progress and continually showing up, like you need to ask those more important questions. And when you bring up the Cert 3 and 4, there are a lot of like strategies like SMART goals and so on that I feel they can be effective to certain people, but in a way it's a little bit robotic that it doesn't apply to everyone. People people adhere to things differently. People have better ways for themselves to set goals, to continue on. So it's just adjusting to each person individually, and that's that coach experience, I guess, just being that one-on-one for them, being there for them.
Yeah, man, I think there's a couple of key things that you drew out in that there. Is like, for people that are maybe thinking about getting into the industry, is like a few things is like knowing where the clients are in their life cycle. Is like when you first have somebody come off the street, they've never trained before, they don't have a sporting background, they're super tight, they're not very strong yet. Like maybe you do need to drill down on the technique a little bit more. But it's like when you've got like yourself, you come into a scene where a lot of the guys that are in those sessions have been training with us for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months plus, and these guys have already kind of gone through all the technique drilling. And yes, they do definitely need to be coached and cued on the day, but it's like to go through like a 2-minute explanation for every movement when there's only 60 minutes in a class is like, sometimes it just needs to be like, okay, like we're doing back squats and your focus needs to be just making sure you brace in nice and tight, descend with control and drive through the middle of your foot. Is maybe all we need to do before the class is like a couple of reminders, and then once they're going, then let's get them onto like the your knees need to go out there, you need to sit back more, you need to like sit forward more, whatever that is. But that's kind of like an active process for us. I think a lot of people think they need to explain every detail, and I was the exact same when I started, before anyone's even touched a barbell, which is a huge thing there. And it's like the experience of the training session is like way more important and way more valuable than the actual like how much detail did you give to the back squat in explaining it. Because by the time you explain the back squat, you've still got 4 other exercises to explain. Most of the people are, dude, can we just touch the barbell already? Like, they didn't even get the keys for your rows that you were teaching them as well, because they were off with the fairies already wanting to lift some stuff. So that's a huge thing that I had very early on. Like I was very detailed. Like I wanted people to know that I was smart. Whereas like now I basically teach the minimum detail possible, and I let the results show that we know what we're talking about.
Absolutely. That's super important.
A huge thing there. And then the second thing that I love that you touched on is like the Cert 3, Cert 4 goes through that SMART goals process. It's like, this is how you have to teach goals, which is like, it's awesome and it works. The kicker for me with SMART goals is that people have not done it that many times that they associate with SMART goals that they don't achieve them. So all of a sudden you've got this, you're teaching them this process, and they're like, oh yeah, I did SMART goals when I was in high school. Oh yeah, how'd you go? It was like, I didn't do it. It's like, how long are you going to get with somebody, or how far are they going to get along the process of achieving these goals if the way that they set them and the way they go about them, they're used to going, well, this doesn't work for me. They might last 2 weeks, they might last 3 weeks, like hell, once every now and then they might actually get it. But like that's where like we've tried to, over time, is like every time we go back to something like that with the goal setting, we use a different framework than the last time to go about it, because it leads us into a position where we've got something that they're like, oh, this is new, this like, and new's perceived better, which is like not necessarily true, because like that's why we have all these different like new workout styles popping up. We put like the normal class and put it in a like not to pick on air locker, but like a like altitude space, and now it's new and it's exciting, and that's part of actually like, that's probably more to do with the marketing than it is to do with the results. Like, and it obviously has its place and there's some benefit to it, but the thing that's attractive to most people is like, oh, I've never heard of people doing this before, so it must work.
The shiny new light, as they say.
100%, man, and it doesn't devalue it at all. Like, it's definitely like, it can work, but the piece with it that most people are attracted to what's new. So when we bring in a framework like a new goal framework, and it's like, oh, I've never done it this way before, this might be my opportunity to make change on it. And that's why we try to like come up with these new methods, these new frameworks, or positioning a framework that we know that works well in a different way. So explaining it in a different way, because you can't just keep on making up like random goal frameworks. Like, it's got to have value and it's got to be valid. But like, if we can position things a different way, instead of going, okay, goals are about SMART goals and that's how you get to where you want to be, it's like, here's this other way that we do it that's actually, we've found it to be more effective for people, and then people are going to be ready to go, okay, cool, like how do I make this work now? Like, this is a chance, this is different, it's not that SMART goals that didn't work for me last time, what are we going to do with it?
That's it.
And then like the last bit you touched on is like how much people's life outside of the gym is more important than their actual training in the gym to a lot of people. I think that was super, super valuable because like you, as trainers, we might have an hour a day with people. Like,
absolutely.
They've got 23 hours to fend for themselves. Like obviously some people have super supportive families or their partners train as well with them. Guys like Sam and Grace, and they go to the gym together, they go home, they eat food together. Like they're very, very good with all these little pieces. But then you have some people that don't have that luxury of having a super supportive network around. Like everyone at their work eats healthy and exercises. Like it might be the opposite. They might be the one person that eats healthy in their workplace, and there's cake and donuts and pizzas every Friday. And then all of a sudden, when something does go wrong in their headspace, or like something flips upside down in their lives, they don't have that support structure necessarily outside of the gym that's going to be like, okay, like, man, you can get through this. I know you got this here. So I think that's super important. It's like, I think new trainers really, really need to hold on to that bit. If there's one bit that came out of those lessons from you, that's the one thing that they really, really need to dive in on and understand, because I think that was something that I probably missed in the first 12 months of me coaching when I was new to it, because I was like, oh, well, it's like, I know how to actually set up programs so people get results, but the program only matters if they're doing the rest of the work outside of the gym to get the results. So guys, I'm just going to repeat it one more time, is like, take note of how your clients are doing outside of the gym, because that's so important for your clients' health, their results, their well-being, and then ultimately that makes you a better coach.
Yep, 100%. That's what differentiates the trainers, I guess. Those people who just go in, like you said, for that hour, and then they just leave it at that hour. But if you're thinking outside that hour time frame, I think that makes a world of difference to someone, just knowing from experience.
My old boss was notorious for like, he would have people come in, they would be on the treadmill warming up, and then all of a sudden they go out in the office, and they would be out in the office for like half an hour, or whatever it is, and they come back, they grab their stuff, and they'd leave. And I'd be like, they didn't even do any training. And it was like, that's what that person needed on that day. And like, he was just really, really good at understanding where that person was at. And I was like, this is going to be the piece that has the biggest amount of impact for that person right now. And training is just going to add more stress to that person's life today.
Yep.
So he just went about it that way. And he was really, really good at getting people the result they're after. But often he was the one that had people doing the least amount of work in the gym.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Man, let's jump forward a little bit onto, I know one of the things that you brought up a couple of weeks ago to our clients and got received really, really well was this idea of like tracking your daily habits, tracking like with a planner. And I want you to do the explaining for it, but like what was the reason that this stemmed about? And then like, why would somebody who's listening now maybe look to incorporating something like this?
Yeah, cool. So I'll start off with why I came up with it, or why I used it. Obviously, it's a bit of a different... What
is it first? Like, explain what it is, and then let's go back to the why.
Yeah, cool. It's so it's a daily planner. I just did it up on Excel. I'm no computer guru. Literally just put in Monday through to Sunday, few time slots, and then I had at the start of the week, it works better if you go through it with someone else. It's that accountability. But at the start of the week, you put in a few things that you need to get done for the week, then a few things that you want to get done for the week, and then over the Monday through to Sunday, you spread that out. But the whole idea behind it is not to think of everything that comes to mind and then put it in. It's about just doing a couple things every day to, as Nath told me in a few coaching calls, minimal effective day. So just getting the minimum amount to do to create that effective day. It's the reason that I made up the Excel spreadsheet was obviously this is a bit of a different time for us all. Not that I rely on motivation, but energy levels are low, emotions low, everyone's going through different things. So this planner, it gets me out of my head. I can type or write down what I want to do without it being in my head. And I think that's the biggest thing. Everyone can have great ideas of how the day is going to plan out, great ideas of what they're going to do, but whether they actually take action on that is a completely different thing. So for me, writing something down, I've written it on paper, I'm out of my head, and I give it a little tick off when I'm done. And to me, that's that first step forward to take that action, that 1%. Super helpful for me, but again, might not be for everyone. And that comes back to that individualized experience and what's effective for you.
Yeah, cool. So like who would you recommend it for in that sort of case?
I'd recommend it to people who were or are struggling with just so pre-times. For example, when we were in the gym, someone could come to me, they could tell me what they're going to do, and there was that accountability there. In this time, they can't really have that face-to-face, even though we have the Zoom. But if they're struggling to literally just get out of bed, they're stuck at night, sleepless or whatever, that was something for me, is that I went to bed with all these thoughts, and that's it was a double-edged sword. I couldn't go to sleep, and two, when I did wake up, I didn't have the energy to do what I wanted to do. So for people just struggling for that first basic step, it's such a basic thing to do, but it comes with big results, in my opinion. So yeah, just anyone really struggling to take the first step. Yeah,
cool, awesome, man. And what like on that piece there is like, what would be what are some of the things that you put in that schedule? Like, what are you scheduling in your like workouts? Are you scheduling like self-development time? Like, I know you're studying at uni. Is like that going there?
Yep.
Are you putting in meals? Like what sort of what are some of the things that you find useful to chuck in that piece there?
Yeah, super good question. So I said that I split it into two things to do, or like urgent, and things that I want to do. The things that I needed to do included things like uni work, like I'd set aside a couple hours a week. And then it might be like, I actually scheduled in workouts as well for me to do, because that was something that meant a lot to me. So if you're going to differentiate it, things to do or that are urgent is something that's super important to you, or they have a deadline. So for example, uni work has a deadline, but training is just super important to me. So I like to put it in throughout my week. But in terms of things I wanted to do, that was things like meal planning. So I put like meal planning on Monday, and I just plan out what I'm going to eat for the week. Then it might be something like, trying to think of what I had in. Oh, maybe like reading time as well. So yeah, back on that self-development, just like some me time as well. I think when people put in tasks to do, it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical thing to do, like go out somewhere. It can literally just be to like breathe for 10 minutes a day, focus on your breathing, listen to a podcast for 10 minutes. I did have that in, actually. I had listened to a podcast, and it didn't have to be an hour-long podcast. It could just be a 10, 20-minute podcast. And
looking for like a 5-minute one, Monday motivation work podcast. Shameless plug.
Shout out Newstrength.
Sponsored by ourselves. Yeah, awesome, man. So that's great. Like and I guess it's like it's a fluid thing in like what is essential to you.
Yep.
Like what is essential to say that, you know, like your job, your studies, whatever that might be, like comes in there, but that's going to be different depending on the person. Like the workouts might be something that's what they'd like to do. So that can be like in a little bit more of a fluid stage of like, okay, if this doesn't happen on this time, it doesn't really matter, but just try to shift it into another time in that block. I know what comes to mind for me is John, one of my mentors. John's been, he likes to go to like 90-minute blocks. So he's like, oh, put in from the start of the week, you have your 90-minute blocks on this, and this, and then it's like that 90-minute block is one dedicated to like education work, or like that 90-minute block is to do with like programming or whatever those things are that you need to do, and then like having that scheduled in around your calls with clients or like actual like training sessions with clients with that sort of situation, or like booking in podcasts to do, like all that sort of stuff comes into these blocks that you're scheduling at the start of the week, and then those are like rigid non-negotiables as part of your week. And then that way it's like, if it I think the old Peter Drucker quote is like, what gets measured gets managed, and it's the same thing as like what gets booked in like gets done. If you're not booking it in, you're like, I want to train like 4 days this week, and you're like, where does this come up? Like, I guess I'll train sometime tomorrow. It's like, okay, when? Like, let's get clear on this. And the more that you can actually definitively put a timestamp to it, the more likely you are to do it.
Yeah.
Rather than it be like, okay, let's like hopefully I'll train, or like hopefully I'll do food prep like tomorrow. It's like if you can actually like lock it in, like then you're way more likely to do it, particularly if you are a person that is pretty strong with their word, because you have, like, once you've actually said it, it's like, okay, now I've made a mental commitment to doing that.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, it can be useful. It's like, I know, like, is this something you go through with Nath? Like, once you've got it scheduled, you have your check-in with Nath, do you talk about those sort of things and when you've got it locked in?
I usually go through it with my girlfriend, actually. But yeah, I have gone over it with Nath as well throughout the week. If there's anything important, I'll just say to him, yeah, I need help with this, or just gonna do this week, and he'll give me a little couple of tips and whatnot here and there. But yeah, you brought up two really good points just real quick. What was it? What can be managed can be tracked.
What gets measured gets managed.
Yeah, that's the one. Geez, how I stuffed that up. Yeah, that's super important, because I think that's similar. The reason why I did this planner as well, just like tracking calories or tracking weight programs, you get the results. In terms of like mental health and planning ahead, I think because there's not so much numbers involved, whereas with calories, you got how much protein, blah blah blah. But when it comes to planning for like mental health or daily planner, it's similar. If you track that, you will progress. But if you're just going aimlessly, to know what direction you're going. And number two, the time blocks is super important. I had a call with a client the other day, and it was just to set up training for her in the week ahead. And she was going to train today. And instead of saying, yeah, you're going to train today, go, all right, I'm going to train at 5 o'clock today, because what happens is you can come home from work, school, whatever it might be, low on energy, something little comes up, but you go, oh, I might do that instead. And having that time block there, that 90-minute block that you said, John, yeah, it was super important, super cool.
Yeah, I think adding to that you just mentioned is like not everything's tangible. Like, you can measure calories, you can measure like weight on a bar and that sort of thing, but then some of those things, particularly surrounding like how can you help your like mental health, well-being, emotional health in that sort of way, is like you can make it tangible. It's just finding the right ways of doing it. So Absolutely. Like whether that be like hours invested into it a week, or like frequency that you do something like that's in that way, like people are into like spending like 10 minutes on breathing work or meditation, that sort of stuff is like maybe like you can count, like maybe you can count the minutes, but like, I think sometimes the minutes is like a little like cheat way, because you'll get somebody who'll go like, oh, if I just do 40 minutes on this day, it makes up for the fact that I like didn't do it the last couple of days. And just like that with nutrition is like you can't, or like probably more relatively training, like you can't just do one big workout because you missed 3 days of training and expect it to like still get the same results.
Yeah.
But then something like that, frequency is a really good thing. So like, okay, did I dedicate like that 5-minute block like 3, 4, 5 times? How many times a week did I do it here? Like, I think that's a really, really cool tool to make it tangible. Because that's the magic in a lot of the things that we do, like particularly around wellness, is like we need to somewhat find a way to make the intangible pieces a bit more tangible so we can see that progress, because the easiest way to drive motivation in that sort of thing is like consistent progress and consistent results. And if you can create tangible like ends where you can see that happening, then it's really, really easy to keep going with it.
Yeah, golden snippet, mate.
Man, let's quickly wrap up. We got a minute and a half.
Yep.
I want to cover like what's coming up for Coach Nic in the next few months, the next year. What are you looking forward to? What are maybe some goals for you with your own training, or like anything that you're excited to dive deep into and learn more about?
Yeah, cool. Real quick, I don't have anything super set in, but I just I'm so keen for the gyms to reopen just so I can get back into training. Because I believe the biggest thing is practice what you preach, and
practice what you preach.
Practice what you preach.
That's like one of the booty workout things.
Yeah, I got something different on my mind. Practice what you preach, and that way I can give more. And that was my goal, just to take on more clients and teach them what I've learned as well. There's no point me doing something else and teaching them something different. I can go through the emotions of it all. So that's really just my goal, is to take on more clients, learn as much as possible. And that's a bit of golden advice for anyone coming into the fitness industry, is don't go into it thinking you know everything. Go in there wanting to learn more and understanding that everyone has value to add. So listen to them when the time comes. And so like if you're going into fitness, like the golden piece of advice would just be keep learning. And number 2 would be something that I'm super appreciative of is I started off getting coaching by you guys, so you yourself and Nathan, and then I got a job out of it. So if you're on the fence, go get coaching by someone, whether it's PT or whatnot, and if you really like the way that person works, then start showing interest, start showing what you can give them and whatnot.
Love it, man. That's a perfect thing to finish on. Thank you so much for coming on, Nick. I really appreciate it. We're obviously very excited to get back in the gym very soon, and I think a lot of our clients are back in the same way. They're getting keen for it too. So, guys, if you've enjoyed this episode, we'd love for you to share it on your Instagram story just with the screenshot, or drop us a 5-star review in iTunes or Spotify. I think they have Spotify reviews.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't use it, but awesome. Thanks so much, guys. We'll catch you guys next week.
Legends.